What's up, Big 12 Nation? It is Tuesday night in America. That can mean only one thing. It's time for another edition of your favorite YouTube-based Big 12 show. That's right. It's the Biggest 12 with me, your host, Clint Foster. Thank you so much for being here. Got a fantastic show for you tonight. As you can see by the decor and my general oeuvre, it is Lone Star Tuesday on the Biggest 12, baby. Texas Football Magazine is out and on shelves. And if you're from Texas, you know how big of a deal this is, all right? It's time to complain and discuss about all of the things that are happening with the Big 12 Texas schools in this magazine. So, hey, all my West Virginia viewers, all my Kansas viewers, all you other folks, hey, we love you. We hope you stick around, but the adults are talking here tonight, okay? We're talking Texas-related football, okay? And we're also it's gonna be with a bunch of folks who can all share in the joy and laughter of Texas A&M losing their baseball coach today, which is hilarious, and we'll probably talk about that. But before we get to any of that, please like, subscribe, share the show. If you haven't done it yet, what are you doing, man? At Big 12 VOCFB. That's what you got to go to. If you're watching on Twitter, thanks. First of all, hey, what's up? Good to see you. Go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. You want to be a part of this show every week, don't you? It's a great show. So go and subscribe, like it, tell your friends, family, moms, dads, everybody about it. Your cousins, bring it up at the family reunion at an awkward point in conversation. Oh my God, there's this YouTube show. You got to watch it. Do it, okay? And make this thing a part of your Tuesday night. Let's grow the show. And if you haven't already, follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55 and follow me on YouTube at Clint Foster Comedy. Got a new video out for you that I posted this weekend. I'm going to have another one for you next week, I want to say. I'm waiting to get some T-shirts in the mail. Okay, so we're going to finally make an ACC Doomsday video. So you're going to want to be a part of that. You're going to see when it gets posted if you subscribe to my channel. So without further ado, let me introduce all of my friends that I've got here for this awesome DCTF Bible study, if you will. It's called the Bible of Texas Football down here in the Lone Star State. You know them, you love them. Bobby, Rob, and Matt all in the house. Gentlemen, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday?
Doing good.
Well, good to be here.
And I'm just excited to be here. Another Tuesday in Texas where it was 100 degrees. So happy to be inside and cooling off that way.
Yeah, no joke. It was certainly humid up in Fort Worth today. I can only imagine down in Houston what it was.
I'm in Dallas. I live in Dallas, so I can only imagine what it was like down in Houston.
All right, gentlemen. So what is y'all's relationship? Enlighten the people. What is y'all's relationship with this beautiful magazine right here? Is it as much of an annual tradition for you as I assume it is for me?
Yeah, 100% going all the way back to high school, trying to find your name there in the back if you were listed on the roster. Even before growing up, looking at all the different high schools in the area, and in my case, back in the TAPS section, the private and parochials. And then you get.
Wait, where'd you go, Rob? You were in TAPS. Where'd you go?
Yeah, Lubbock Christian. Here in Lubbock.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, state champs, 04, undefeated. And then my
Right on.
senior year, 2 years later, 1-9. So swift downfall after that senior class left in 04. But we had a good time there, and obviously with the magazine, us and the Gambling Gauchos connected now that we're part of the Republic of Football feed. So yeah, we love the magazine and what it does and what it's been for many, many years.
Yeah, same here.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay. I would just, ever since high school, getting into football, I would always remember I'd flip to the high school section first, find my school. It's kind of the same thing, and then go through the colleges, and that really spurred my fandom and love of college football and just like football in Texas in general. But yeah, kind of the same thing. And I was a 2A school, so it's kind of like I didn't go as far back as the TAPS, but I went pretty far back to find my school.
Yeah, for those of you who aren't aware, those of you non-Texans, literally half of this magazine is high school. Half of it. And it's previews of every single high school in Texas at every single level, every college. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. What were you going to say, Bobby?
Yeah, no, for me, I remember I didn't play football in high school, but you go back there 3A. We were 3A. And you see your friends and you try to see, oh, what'd they say about so-and-so or something like that. And then it really just is the beginning of football season for me. There's just a feeling I get that I know football season is around the corner when I walk into especially when I was a kid, you walk into the grocery store, they had the magazine section, and you saw it and you were like, wait a minute, it's football season. So it's always just, it just kind of brings it all together and just kind of starts the excitement for football season.
It's also about this time of the year that my expectations start to get unreasonable, right? All throughout the first 6 months of the year, I'm very reserved and very realistic about my expectations for the upcoming season. And it's about the time I get Texas football in my hands, I'm like, well, hold on. We can win all of these games. It's within reach, man. We can make it happen. Okay, so before we get into individual team previews and talking about did DCTF get it right, did they get it wrong, I think what I would love to do to whet our appetite is to go through the writers poll together. I'll post some of these questions to y'all that they asked the news writers and DCTF and see what y'all's thoughts were about it. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right. So first question in the writers poll, the best college football defensive player in Texas is who? What's your answer?
Say that.
Well, they won't come from U of H. I'll say that.
Fair enough.
The best defensive player, you say?
Best defensive player in the state.
In the state.
Yeah.
Ben Roberts.
Who's Ben Roberts?
Tech linebacker that had 100 tackles last year.
Okay. Yeah. I'll buy it. Well, who do you think, Matt?
Man, that's a tough one in the state.
It's so hard now because, we preview. I look at Big 12 stuff and I want to talk about Big 12, but some of the best players are in College Station and in Austin, and so it's kind of I haven't done all the looking at those teams yet either. Sorry to interrupt you, Matt.
No, you're good. It's hard for me to because I agree with you. It's it's probably someone in Austin, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but they lost the strength of their defense last year was the defense. Those two defensive linemen.
Yeah,
and those guys are in the NFL now. So I kind of pull what Rob said, and I'll say Caden Jenkins, cornerback, Baylor.
Yeah, right. Well, okay, y'all brought up Ben Roberts and Caden Jenkins. They're both on the super team. They're on the Texas super team first team. So those are perfectly good answers. I hate to give UT any kind of credit whatsoever, but I'd probably have to say it's Anthony Hill, that linebacker down at Texas. I got to see him when he was at Denton Ryan play a little bit, and that dude's an athlete.
Yeah.
Probably will have a very good season in the SEC, as much as I hate to say it.
And that's probably the correct answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what about offensive player? Who's the best offensive player in Texas?
I mean, is this a written thing? Have they voted on this? Is that what we're saying, or is it?
They literally just say it'll have answers from Chris Bianini says Quinn Ewers.
That's what I was going to say.
I was going to say Quinn
Ewers. Quinn Ewers, right? We can. You can
not
can
Taj
anybody,
Brooks, man. Not Taj Brooks.
I think the default answer is generally quarterback.
Yep.
But Taj Brooks certainly the best running back in Texas.
Yeah, unless you have an elite, game-changing special player, like a wideout or something like that. But you kind of for offense, you're kind of stick with a quarterback because he touches the ball every play.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Y'all keep sleeping on Josh Hoover, man. Keep sleeping on Josh Hoover at your own peril, okay? All right, this is a fun one. And the reason they asked this specific question is because, they're asking people who have press badges. If you had to pay to attend one Texas college game in 2024, which would you choose and why?
Texas versus Texas A&M. I'm sorry. I know they're not in the Big 12, but they're finally going to play again. I don't – is it in Austin or is it in College Station this year? I can't remember off the top of my head. But,
I think it's in College Station.
Yeah. If it's in College Station, I definitely want to be there for that, especially with the news of what just happened tonight.
Yeah.
You want to be there for that. As much as we want to say that, like, as much, the Big 12 doesn't need them or something. Let me tell you, that game is going to be electric, especially if it's in College Station. The tickets are going to go for a ridiculous amount of money if you want to get in that place. It's going to be absolutely electric in there. But if you're telling me I can't go with that one, just for U of H sake, just to speak to U of H, I think the game that I'm most excited for would be Utah versus U of H. Not because I think it's going to be a particularly close game, but I think Utah is going to be competing for they're going to be competing for conference championships, things like that. U of H could kind of play a spoiler. Maybe you overlook them. It's U of H's homecoming they announced today. We announced that Utah is going to be the homecoming, so maybe it'll be a little bit more crowded than it normally is, something like that. That feels like a game where U of H could surprise somebody, maybe play Utah a little closer, and just provide some spoiler for them.
I hope everyone surprises Utah and spoils their season every single week in the Big 12.
Agreed.
After the cheapest beer list, maybe it's a TCU. Going back to TCU, $3 beers, but it was a caveat that it was only before the game.
Yeah, so that was news to literally every single TCU fan. I was like, I have never
been there.
Let's get liquored up before a kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this is while we're still all out in the parking lot.
Imagine those 11 a.m. kickoffs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you're in there at 9 a.m. in the stadium,
getting those $3 beers at 9 a.m.
You can get a $3 beer for your trouble. Jeez. Yeah, it's Texas and A&M. I mean, come on. Believe it or not, 2 people said UTSA Texas State. I think they were just trying to be different.
Here's what I would say. I would say this.
Game, though.
In 2024, this year, a game I will pay to go see is going to be the TCU at Baylor, where Baylor's honoring the 2013-2014 Big 12 champions. Gary Patterson is in green and gold, and Browse is wearing purple. That's the game you pay to go see.
What timeline are we living in, man?
That one's kind of hard for me to argue outside of Texas A&M. That's going to be fun.
That's probably the correct answer because of the distance and the rivalry and the historic nature of it. But with my green and gold goggles on, that game is going to be something special too.
Yeah, I'll probably go down to that game. I broke my so I was at the 2022 game. And that was the first game I'd seen in Waco since the 2014 game. Mm-hmm. So my bad juju is gone from going down to McLean Stadium. I was convinced, until the last second. I was like, it's my fault. I shouldn't have come. Like, I should have just watched it on TV.
Was that the last second kick game? 22?
Yeah, the Hypnotoad.
I was at that game too, and I've never been more dejected after a loss than that game.
That's the first time I've ever been speechless at a game. Completely speechless. I couldn't make a sound. I was like, what just happened? Okay. Which Texas college football story will emerge that no one is talking about?
I've got some Texas Tech ones. Maybe a quarterback playing for more than 5 games in one season. That'll be nice to have. Taj Brooks is going for Taj Brooks.
Don't hold your breath.
The all-time rushing record at Texas Tech career. He needs 1,100 yards. He had 1,500 last year. I think people might be talking about that one, but you could have potentially the all-time leading rusher at Texas Tech after this season. And in today's era, after all the success you had with Doak Walker Awards and everything else in the 90s, that's pretty incredible.
I think one that may emerge, and this is probably very unlikely, but I think you gotta watch the space of Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning situation, especially going to the SEC. I mean, Ewers got hurt previously. I think he's been hurt probably every year he started, and so now you have. I've seen a little bit of Arch in spring game. He looks much better than he did his freshman year, so that's probably maybe a space to watch.
Yeah, and from the UH perspective, I think the big one going in is Donovan Smith coming off his injury that he had surgery for. He couldn't participate in spring practice, and we have a very interesting transfer that has come in. Zion Chris from Louisiana Lafayette from Ulala. Very interesting prospect, or very interesting transfer. he could come in and start. You would think that he came here under the new coaching staff because they probably told him he's going to have a shot. But everyone's talking like Donovan is the guy who's going to play and is going to be the starter. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the summer and the fall, to see if Zion Chris can do anything to kind of put himself ahead of Donovan Smith, even though Donovan Smith is kind of the presumptive starter. But that's going to be something that you kind of see if Donovan starts to struggle, has some inconsistency like he did last year. Look for a little bit of a quarterback situation happening at U of H if Donovan Smith doesn't come out and light the world on fire.
What about Jerry Bohannon coming home to Waco?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And considering he's 35.
Yeah.
I looked back. He was in the same like recruiting class as like Micah Parsons.
Oh my God.
But hey,
COVID years have made things so weird, man.
It's like COVID plus he got like a medical red shirt plus his regular red shirt. I mean, it's like it's
making
wild.
Case Keenum look young at the end of that 7th year.
And he's not the only one. It's like because of that, yeah. But
yeah, Cam Rising and what's his name, Alan Bowman. I mean, geez, these guys have AARP.
Cards,
you know?
Hey, Rob can talk about your boy Bowman.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll be interesting. Let's see if he's the starter. I'm not super high on BYU, so I love my guy Kalani Sitake. I don't think it's going to go well for him, but yeah, that'll be interesting considering the way things kind of played out when he left Baylor.
Here's mine. Story that nobody's talking about. SMU plays to a mediocre single season in the Power 5 before the ACC explodes on itself and they're left out in the cold again.
They also have 2 or 3 Big 12 games in their non-con.
Yeah, they do.
So that'll be another thing with SMU, because if they win 2 Big 12 games and then get smashed in the ACC, that's just not a good look.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think SMU could beat BYU. I actually would kind of
think,
beat BYU.
I would think so.
I don't think they'll beat us. Especially because it's the last iron skillet for the foreseeable future. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I know they think they're going to go in there and light the world on fire, but we'll see. Okay, last question from the writers' poll, and then we'll get into these predictions. Which Texas team is most likely to defy expectations and why? Truly, I think that all 4 of our teams could defy expectations. What are y'all's answers?
I'll be like a homer. I would say like of the teams, Baylor probably has the lowest expectations. So they're the most likely to like defy those.
Hold on.
I think Houston might have the lowest.
Hold on.
I would say this. I forgot Houston was here. But
I mean, all right.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm selling my
a lot of noise
answer
coming from a team we beat. All right, no, I'm just kidding.
I was there.
So was
Trust
I.
me. But I think it's just I would say the reason I say Baylor, not Houston, is because it's the Willie Fritz he's not your turnkey turnaround. I'm going to turn this around in 1 year guy. He's a builder. So I would think it's going to be a little bit more than an off season to get everything situated. The moves I think that Dave Aranda has done leads it to like, we need to turn this thing around like next year.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, there's going to be other changes. So that's kind of one of those things.
Including Dave Aranda.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One thing I will say about that, by the way, is I heard from somebody who is, close to the situation that Coach P, Gary Patterson, had said that he was surprised how resistant to change Dave Aranda is. And if you know anything about Gary Patterson, that is a dude who is resistant to change.
Yeah.
So for him to be able to point that out about somebody.
It's like Dave Aranda talks about this. Like, I think after spring, he was asked about having Gary on the staff. And it's like they have opposite philosophical views of defense. And so he's having to like change because that's kind of like, that's what Gary's there for. It's like, here's what I see. He's like kind of like a self-scout. Here's what I see. Here's what we need to change. Here's what you need to do. And so like, you're just like, I'm going to have to completely change how I've thought about defense my whole career.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, why is it Tech?
Just I'm sorry. To your point, Matt, about U of H's expectations and Fritz being more of a builder, that kind of deal. I think one of the things that me and my co-hosts have really been talking about is just like this team may lose the same amount of games that they did last year, but be a better football team.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a good chance that this team could even lose more because we have a murder's row of a schedule this year, and it's just like we could lose more games but still be a better football team. So we're kind of, and somehow the expectations are low, but we're even trying to set them like even lower. Like, guys, it may have been a little bit better if Dana was here, just for like the moving forward, the continuity, that kind of stuff. You're not implementing a new offense and all of that, but like we could be on record worse, but be a better football team. So I definitely don't think it's U of H. I think Baylor could surprise some people because their expectations are pretty low. So I think going above them, especially if, to your point, Matt, Patterson gets in there, he can rework that defense, and you get a couple of more stops. Maybe something will look different for that. You'll exceed expectations. So I can hear the argument on Baylor.
Yeah, I do think when you're having a conversation about exceeding expectations, it's kind of like Coach of the Year, who did best or better than what they were expected to do.
Yep.
And I think Texas Tech's expectation is to go 7, 8 wins, 9 wins. And I don't think you'll do way better than that. I think you might achieve that, but I don't think you would go way over that. Of the 4 teams, I would say probably Baylor. TCU's expectations probably right down the middle. I think 7 wins in Vegas, 6.5.
Yeah, I think I saw 6 or 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might say TCU there, but Texas Tech's schedule is, winnable.
Maybe no Wyoming this year though, so that's good.
Hey, no Wyoming. You do have to go to Pullman, which could be dangerous. Same kind of elevation concerns, and you have to bus in. You don't have an airport, but hopefully the game starts on time and there's no rain delay, which I think hurt you last year.
Yeah. I really think TCU could defy expectations simply because nobody's talking about us. And rightfully so. I mean, we have the magical 2022 season and then absolutely crap the bed in year 2 of Sonny Dykes. But we've got a massive influx of talent, particularly on the offensive line. I am a big believer in Josh Hoover. Everything I've heard from inside the program is that everyone loves playing with him. He's one of those great, like, intangible leader types that we've really done really well with in the past and has a strong arm. If he can stay healthy and the offensive line is a lot more physical, I feel really good about that. And I love Andy Avalos. I love that we have a defensive coordinator who's actually going to bring pressure and not just kind of sit there with a 3-man rush and wait for things to happen. I don't know. I think our schedule is doable, specifically because we have Oklahoma State at home, Arizona at home, Tech at home. You know, you look at usually what would be like the toughest road games are at home. And then we do have to go to Utah, so that's a tough one, and we have to go to Kansas. But it's no Houston schedule, like Bobby was saying. I mean, Houston's schedule is stupid, like from September through November. But yeah,
we're not going to have fun this year.
Interesting to watch. All right. So, and before I get into Baylor, I do want to point out to y'all that guess who that Texas football has in the Big 12 championship?
Utah, Kansas State.
Utah and Arizona.
What?
It's like it's the lamest possible scenario besides Colorado being against Utah. I think like we have to at all costs we have to keep.
Arizona had a good year, but then they had like that coaching change late, and they brought in Brennan, and so how that translates. But I mean, before all that, at the end of the season, yeah, Arizona would probably be Arizona, Utah are like the. Would be a good pick to be like come in and kind of be a front runner for one of those spots.
Yeah,
but I truly think like any of the top 9 teams, I think could make a run. The Big 12 is wide open.
Well, that's why the Big 12 is, and you've heard a lot of national guys that at least people that watch college football say like this is like America's conference. This is going to be the most fun conference because of that.
Yeah.
And
all right, let's talk
coming
Baylor.
Into the Big 12 last year, that was like one of the things that we were super excited about is there was no we knew it wasn't going to be us, but pretty much anyone from 1 to 10 last year had a shot going into the season to compete for the Big 12 title and possibly make a playoff. And so that's one of the best parts about the Big 12.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's going to be a fun conference for as long as it's around. Okay, so Baylor. We start alphabetical because that's how the magazine does it. Prediction for Baylor, 5-7 with a ceiling of 8-4 and a floor of 3-9. I love how they did these floor and ceilings this year. I'll go ahead and read you. I'll go ahead and read you their just like their little snippet take, and then we'll get your thoughts on it, Matt, and we'll talk about it. The Bears proved in 2021 that it's possible to jump from cellar dweller in the Big 12 to champion in one season. They won 2 games in 2020 before reeling off 12 the next season. Dave Aranda needs a similar rebound from a 3-win 2023. Few programs in the country employ better play callers than Aranda on defense and Spavital, the former head coach at Texas State, on offense. That means 2024 comes down to personnel, and the Bears look like Big 12 contenders at positions such as running back, defensive back, and even quarterback, with Toledo transferred to Quan Finn. We're not as sure about the offensive and defensive lines. Gentlemen, what do you think about that general take on the Baylor Bears?
I mean, that's a fair assessment, especially considering the trajectory from since 2021. So you're like 6-6 to 3-9, and they tried to lose more games. Like they tried to lose a UCF game, and they did all they could to lose Cincinnati. So it's like those type of things is like everyone, I would say probably across the board, like Baylor fans, they wanted Dave Aranda fired last year. And then I read like Sam Kahn's piece in The Athletic, and like he had that meeting with Mac Rhodes before that West Virginia game. And so that decision was made before then. And that's Dave Aranda wanted it done. He wanted to know before that game was played. Then you see that game, and if the defense wasn't so god-awful, you probably should have won that. No, not probably. You should have won that game. Defense did what it did all year and just gave up chunk yards and big plays. So, but you kind of saw like, okay, here's what Sawyer Roberts can do when he's healthy. And I think even more so with the change of offense to running more of a, spread style offense that like Spavital runs. I think what you'll see is better offensive play because it doesn't, talking about the offensive line that was mentioned in the piece, that it's not, you don't have to be perfect like you had to do in the wide zone. Like you had to hit your spot every single time with perfection and precision. There's a little bit leeway with this offensive system. And so I think the offense will be better, even if marginally, offensive line wise. And the defense should be better, especially if the news today is like the NCAA is going to remove restrictions on coaches that can actually coach on the field. So if you can have Dave Aranda, Matt Pallage, Gary Patterson, all coaching defense, I like the idea that defense will improve as well.
As long as it's not a too many cooks situation, right?
I mean, I think Dave Aranda strikes me as the type of guy that isn't going to be. He's coaching right now. He's coaching inside linebackers, and I don't think there's a better like linebacker coach probably in college football than Dave Aranda. So if he can kind of delegate, and essentially Spavital's head coach of the offense, and he's a former head coach, so he's carrying on a lot of those roles. If Dave Aranda kind of working on the defense, he's the quote unquote, I would say he's a defensive coordinator de facto, not in title, but Pallage is kind of working with the safeties. He's working with linebackers and coordinating the defense. And you have Gary Patterson who's doing whatever he's doing, his special consultant or whatever his title is. Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, I think everything that was in the magazine is fair. I lean towards kind of somewhere in the middle, probably about 7-5 is where I would probably put my prediction. Haven't really sat down and looked at it too thoroughly yet, but I think anywhere between 5 and 8, that's completely fair. And that's where it should be. If it's less than 5, like, yeah, there's going to be a coaching change. I mean, there's no doubt about that in my mind.
There would need to be.
Yeah.
Do you think if it is if it's 5 that they keep him? That just after everything I read about Aranda's job status and how much
Yeah.
everybody wanted him gone.
Not
Would
all
he be
5
there at
wins are created equally. It all depends.
fair.
If everyone's healthy and you go through the year and you lose 7 games, I think 5 is not enough. Now, if you have a rash of injuries, or which we've had in the past, or if you have like a Texas Tech situation to where like you're starting 50 different quarterbacks in a season, then you kind of look at it as, okay, well, things weren't perfect. You kind of managed 5 wins with all these different hiccups and speed bumps along the way. But yeah, so it all depends on how you get to those 5 wins. If you have DeQuan Finn and everything is, and you don't have that, yeah, I don't see how 5 wins to me isn't good enough.
Yeah, well, here's the 5 that Texas football picked. I'm gonna see if I can. Yeah, there we are, all in there. So Texas football thinks y'all will win Tarleton State, Air Force, BYU, West Virginia, and Houston. And I think if it is those 5 specifically, I mean, if I'm a Baylor fan, I'm not sold.
No. So like I would say those 5. I think there's some others on there that pretty much maybe all but a few are like, well, I would call them like 50-50 or very close. 60-40. I mean, outside of maybe, and even Utah, we played them close last year whenever we were horrible. So, I mean, that's I expect, like, if I'm picking them, I would say Utah was probably a loss. Oklahoma State's probably a loss. West Virginia, just because we never beat West Virginia and have never beat West Virginia on the road.
Yeah.
So until we do, that's automatically a loss. So, like, the rest of them, even I would say, like, you either get them at home or I would call them like a toss-up game.
No, yeah, I feel the same way every time TCU plays in Stillwater. I'm like, well, we've beaten them there like once. I'm not going to assume that
until it happens, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, right. And you couldn't beat them at home last year, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, any other thoughts on Baylor, gentlemen?
No, I think Matt did a great job. That's why he has his podcast. But I was just curious about the 5 wins. I don't know if I said this, but my parents live in Waco, so I follow Baylor a little closely. I've been to plenty of games back at the old stadium and that kind of
with
stuff.
The tarp.
So I was just curious if that
bring back
5,
the tarp.
If that 5 would actually keep his job. So
yeah, I don't think those 5 do, because I mean those are
those are the ones you have to.
Yeah, you have those. You absolutely have to win those, and like beat If you win those 5 and beat TCU, you probably keep your job.
Okay.
Yeah,
since you haven't beaten TCU since 2019 or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
and even that one was like a triple overtime or double overtime, whatever it was.
Yeah. Is that game at home?
Yeah, it's in
2019.
Oh,
yeah.
This year it's in Waco. Yeah.
When's the last time Baylor won a home game against a Power 5 opponent at home?
Oh man, I'd have to actually. I don't remember.
Oh, it's so awkward now.
It's been over 600 days.
It's been like
No.
like 2021 probably.
Oh no, this just got awkward.
That was for
Man. Yeah, one last year.
It wasn't us. It wasn't us. We didn't lose. We didn't lose.
I remember the last time we won in Lubbock though. I do remember that one.
Yeah, once in the last 32 years.
Butt bowl.
You're bringing up old stuff. Come on, let's live in the
Why we living in the
21st
past? Let's
century.
go.
I will say the only thing about Baylor this season is what can Spavital do. I don't like him as an offensive coordinator. I don't like that offense at all.
He's good.
From
Cal
what?
had a good offense.
There's no.
Who?
Cal last year, he was the OC at Cal. They had a good offense.
All right.
I mean,
Now,
he's got a
head
good
coach-
running back to work with. Dominic Richardson from Oklahoma State's down there now. That's a good running back.
Yeah.
And you got Richard Reese still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old Nick Reese.
I mean, even Dawson Pendergrass, who had a good like freshman season last year. I mean, you can throw him in the mix.
Just need that offensive
yeah.
line to come together. That's the big thing. You need that.
And we
line.
brought in, like, I think we brought in 3 transfers, offensive linemen, because they're trying to find like the best 5. Because I think last year the interior were serviceable, absolutely serviceable. It was like the tackles that I think they're still we're trying to find our best 2 tackles. even like right now. So like that's something to watch going into the summer and the fall camp. Is like who's going to come out of that as your best five, because that's huge. Because those are the biggest problems I would say for last year was the defensive line and the offensive line.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Bobby, you ready to talk some Cougs?
I guess. No, yeah, of course. I'm always ready,
Ready
to
for
talk
your
some
punishment?
Cougs, so let's go.
Okay, so DCTF's prediction: 4-8 with a ceiling of 8-4 and a floor of 2-10. It's a wide variance right there. Okay, so the general take. Ball knowers in the Lone Star State realize it's only a matter of time before Willie Fritz works his magic in the third ward. After all, he's a version of college football Novocaine. Just give it time. He won at Blinn Junior College and Sam Houston before building a national reputation at Tulane, where he turned the Green Wave from doormat to champion with a record of 23-4 over his last 2 seasons in New Orleans. Fritz faces a tough challenge at Houston with a roster that only hardcore fans will recognize. I assume that's you, Bobby. A bowl trip would be a major year one success story. Thoughts?
I think, like I said earlier, 4-8 is what we went last year. In just kind of looking at everything, 4-8 sounds about right. I'm really curious. Who were the 4 that they said the wins would come against?
So their 4 wins, and I'll go ahead and put the schedule up on the screen too, so we can all be looking at it. Their 4 wins that they picked were UNLV, Rice, Cincinnati, and BYU. They are not high on BYU.
No, so I can see those 4. Surprisingly, I think UNLV is going to be a lot tougher than people give it credit for. UNLV was a good football team last year. UNLV, their head coach was was a candidate for our job, was a candidate for some big jobs out there. So UNLV is going to be, that's a tough one to open with. Luckily, we do get them at home. It's not like a typical first weekend game where we get somebody in who's not used to the heat and we just out train them. But UNLV, I think so. Rice, we struggled with Rice last year. In fact, we lost to Rice. So in double overtime, they came out and they kicked our teeth in. So I mean, if we struggle like that against Rice again, I think the big thing this year, I would love to know who their 8 are, because they are way higher. They are way higher than me on that.
No, literally September 28th through November 23rd is absurd. That whole stretch of the schedule is ridiculous.
It's insane, and you're gonna have to stack wins early. You got Oklahoma. That's not gonna be a fun game. That I don't know if that's Oklahoma's home opener, but it's going to be their first or second game as a member of the SEC, so their fans are going to come out. They're going to be super excited next year. Again, the goal this year with Fritz for at least me, I don't want to speak for my co-host, but kind of talking with them, really is just to be more competitive in games. Last year, it really felt like we got our butts kicked just up and down. We were never in games. This year, you just want to be competitive, right? Losing 49-28 to Texas Tech, right? You're on the road at Tech, sure, but you shouldn't have lost by 21 to Tech last year, right? You just need those games to just be closer. I just need them, rather than losing 49-28, maybe you lose 49-42. Or you hold them to 28 and you score 21. That's going to be the goal for U of H this year, is just to be closer and just look like a better football team.
I would agree with you.
One of the big things last year was Donovan Smith. In some games, he looked brilliant, right? In that Texas game, I would have taken Donovan Smith over almost any quarterback in the country. He looked so good in that Texas game. And then he played games where he just looked awful. And he just looked like he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a bass fiddle. It was just one of those things that it's all going to come down to how does he play? How does the coaching staff implement their new offense, right? You're coming just kind of based off what we're hearing and kind of what we see with recruiting classes and all of that. is it's going to be a little bit more of what Fritz did with a little bit more running quarterback, maybe less aired out than Holgerson was known for and would kind of recruit for. People thought, and you'd hear that in games all the time last year from commentators, that he was an air raid guy. He really wasn't an air raid guy anymore. Just a lot of short runs and things like that just weren't very air raided, not what made Holgerson, right? But we're going to see a little bit more quarterback running. I think last year Holgerson didn't really know what to do with Donovan Smith. I think when he gave Donovan Smith an opportunity to run the ball, that's where you saw Donovan Smith really. It would open up the offense for him. It would spread out the defense. They'd have to account for him. He'd get some good matchups, and he could really air the ball out when he had the ball, when he was running effectively. So it's really going to come down to what does Fritz's offense look like, and the players that were recruited under the previous staff, how do they look like?
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing about Houston's schedule is I'm very annoyed that Houston is our second Friday night game on our schedule, which, come on, quit playing college football games on Friday nights. I got other things I want to do on Friday nights. Different football I want to watch on Friday.
Man, get used to it.
It sucks, man. It sucks.
Look, as somebody who came from the American, I'll take Friday over Thursday night. Oh,
yeah,
oh,
Thursday.
God, Thursday night. I hated Thursday night games. So, it just threw off your whole vibe as like a student. You'd be like, yeah, I got class today, and then I get to go. So, Friday, a little bit easier. We can, it's easy. Oh, trust me, I did. There's more than one. In fact, me and my co-host one time, we actually, just a fun little side note, we took a trip to SMU for basketball, and they called me, and they were like, hey, we're going to the SMU game tonight. It was a Wednesday night. And they're like, do you want to go? And I was like, what time are we leaving? They were like, 12. And I was like, make it 12:06 because I got to go turn in my homework, and then I'll be at the car. So I had no problem skipping class. Don't worry about that. But, yeah, Friday night games, never fun. I'd rather them be on Saturday. I think most coaches in Texas would rather, and the high school coaches, right? They always say we hate Friday night games because you can't do a visit on a Friday, right? Because the kids are out.
Yeah. This day and age, though, like college football is a product of the media companies. So, like, especially Big 12, like, if you want to get out there on national TV, like, and be the only show in town, like Fridays, like, you're going to be your bread and butter.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well, Steve here in the comments, I think he has the right take on Houston's schedule. All the trolls who act like the Big 12 is all horrible teams don't want to play Iowa State, TCU, Kansas, Utah, Kansas State, and Arizona all in a row. Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right, Bobby. As long as you are competitive throughout that stretch and you're showing improvement, you're showing want to, that's making me feel better. We're laying a foundation for the future in 2024. That's what I think. Any other thoughts on Houston, y'all?
What we do, me and Joe, and we talk about it, we kind of look at the flow of the schedule. I mean, I'm not a big fan of, like, they have like 6 games off week, 3 games off week, 3 games. So, like, that's not I've seen, if we look at them, there's some of them that are like 3 games off week, 2 games off week, then like 6 straight or 7 straight. And that's brutal. But at least you can kind of get like, okay, we got a good number of games under our belt, and then we have a week to rest up, and then you're having like 3 games. The only thing is, the reason I don't necessarily like it is because at the close of the season, you have that interruption right in the middle.
Yeah.
So.
And even the TCU to Kansas game, you go from October 4th to October 19th. It's like, that's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, and you're absolutely right. So, like, you're like at TCU, off week at Kansas.
Yeah.
Before Utah comes in. So it's like, it's.
Yeah, that's not balanced very well.
No, like, what's horrible about it, you go at Kansas, welcome in Utah, welcome in Kansas State.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just brutal the way it sets up. And that's the biggest thing about Houston, I would say, is like just the how their schedule is formatted.
Yeah.
Not fun. Any thoughts, Rob, before we move on to my frogs?
Yeah, I love Donovan Smith. I hope he's more consistent this year because that was something he plagued him at Texas Tech too. But I will say this about Houston. I'm upset that Texas Tech doesn't play him this year. You've had 2 great games in a row. I love playing Houston. You have that kind of budding rivalry that might develop in football here at Texas Tech with Houston.
And you guys were the only ones that would play us.
Yeah,
When we weren't. It was you guys in Oklahoma State. I distinctly remember those being the 2 teams.
So
we had enough of y'all in Conference USA.
Price in Lubbock back-to-back. I wish you could make the return trip there to Houston, but it's also upsetting that you don't play TCU and Baylor every year. So I think all 4 of these teams should play every year, and that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
That's what I wish they would have done like that like
the pods.
A pods type.
Yeah.
Or however you want to do
with
it.
the pods, the problem with the pods was everyone, whenever they
they were too perfect is the problem.
Well,
they were too perfect.
They're not great for U of H because they always want to pair us. They always say our rival is like UCF, and it's like, yeah, we played in the same conference, and I really like watching UCF lose in anything. But at the same time, if you want ratings and you want this conference to grow, Houston's in Texas. U of H should be playing the natural rivals of TCU. They should be playing Tech. Those kind of groups. So the pods would have worked. They were great. It was just like this idea of they wanted us to go with, and we had Holgerson at the time, so they kind of wanted us to do the West Virginia thing too, because you could keep him going against West Virginia. The UCF tie-in with Cincinnati. It was like the 4 of us, and it's like, I mean,
Yeah.
All right, I guess.
But space, Bobby, outer space.
Which one of the running jokes we have on our podcast is, everyone loves to do the Houston, you have a problem, and it's the lamest sign ever made. And I one day pointed out to the guys, I was like, it's Houston, we have a problem because we fixed their mistake. Florida messed it up. We fixed it. We had to figure out how to fix it. Why is that bad for us?
Yeah, it's very true. Historical literacy, child left behind. What can you say? All right, let's talk Froggies. Woo, woo. Real reason that y'all are all here, right? Okay, so DCTF predicts for TCU 8-4. That's kind of been where I've been at. Ceiling of 11-1. Okay, floor of 5-7. Here's what they had to say about the Frogs. The truth about TCU under Sonny Dykes likely lies between the Cinderella run to a national championship game in 2022 and a 5-win season in 2023. The new look Big 12 suits the Frogs just fine, and they should be one of the teams in the mix each season because of the fertile recruiting grounds of the Metroplex and deep pockets of alumni. Josh Hoover solidifying himself as one of the conference's top signal callers would go a long way for the TCU offense, as would not turning the ball over in the red zone. No kidding. The defense should make more plays with Andy Avalos as coordinator. Like I said, 8-4 has kind of been where I've been at. I like the way that our schedule stacks up. I can put it on the screen here. And it really comes down to 2 things for me. Well, 3 things. Taking care of the ball in the red zone and actually turning those opportunities into points, which is something that we absolutely did not do last year. Being a lot more physical up front, which was another one of our biggest problems last year, I thought, but we've added a lot of talent on the offensive line. Bless Harris in particular at offensive tackle, I'm very excited about. And bringing more pressure on defense. The defense really the last 2 years was never very good. They were opportunistic in 2022, and they got turnovers, but they didn't hold teams to low point totals. I mean, y'all remember 2022 where we're coming back from 3 touchdowns down in like almost all of our games and just like crazy stuff. So I like the changes that we made. I feel very good about at least a bowl game. 8 wins is 8 wins to me, I'm happy with. If it's anything less than 8 wins, I'm like, okay, something went wrong. If we go, I will say this: if we go 5-7, then Sonny Dykes is on the hot seat. Is my personal opinion, which sounds crazy after going to our first national championship in 84 years. But I mean, if you have back-to-back no bowl seasons, that's a problem. What do y'all think?
Man,
Yeah.
I think it's
Back-to-back bowl seasons is bad. Non-bowl.
Yeah.
Man, I guess this is just a U of H fan coming in me. You take me to a national championship game, and I'm kind of like, 2 bad seasons, maybe. I know you can make the argument that he wasn't doing it with his players, maybe something like that. I don't know. It would be hard for me to have him going into the next year under a super hot seat. I feel like for me, you come in and you go 3 years. Now your seat is on fire, and you better do something good in that fourth year. Two back-to-back non-bowl years isn't good. It's just hard for me to picture wanting to fire a guy after that when 2 years earlier he took you to a national championship game.
Well, but you got to remember, it's not 1997 in TCU anymore. The expectations are different these days.
Yeah, but I would say he kind of took the expectations to the next level, right? You got to a level with Patterson, and then you kind of want to go, and he kind of took you to the next level where you expect really, really high end when he made it to the national championship game, I guess.
The almost the worst thing that he could have done in year one was go to the national championship game.
yeah.
Because it did set unrealistic expectations for his tenure. But I think they've recruited well. I think in the Big 12, especially in the last 2 seasons, they've recruited a top 5 clip here in the conference. I think they'll be as talented as anyone else. Avalos is an interesting hire to me. He was incredible at Oregon in 1920 when they were just dominating the Pac-12. And then his run at Boise was just not good.
Yeah, that's true.
There was a lot of stories about the culture on the team and how he ran the program and all this stuff. But if he's just going to coach and call defense and you're going to get that 3-3-5 that's going to blitz every other play or every play, and you're going to have the next Kayvon Thibodeau up there creating havoc, I think that's good for TCU. But what can you do offensively? Do you have guys to replace the guys you've lost in the last 2 seasons? Is Josh Hoover the guy? I don't know. He certainly flashed last season, but I wouldn't say he made anyone say, all right, this is the guy coming forward in the next year.
He's not Trayvon Boykin, right? He's not like
he's a free man.
Yeah. Well, Trey is too these days.
Okay.
Trey is too these days. All right. Josh Hoover is more like, to me, he's like, from everything I've heard about him, he's like an Andy Dalton, but with a better arm. He's a leadership guy. And those intangibles and that leadership thing is something that we were really missing last year with Chandler Morris, from what I've heard from people that I still know who are in the program.
Shocking.
And that's not the case anymore, right? I mean, talent-wise, Haas Haney is the guy everyone in Fort Worth's excited about, right? True freshman coming in from Aledo. He was.
How is Haas Haney not a Texas Tech quarterback? Because I want to know.
Well, because his
that name, that screams Red Raider.
Yeah, well, he was conceived at TCU. It's truly so, and he grew up a TCU fan. So he said it, right? He said it. But yeah, that's a guy athletically everyone is really excited about in the future. But yeah, I think Josh Hoover, I think he can be. I mean, shoot, I would have never thought Max would have been that guy, but he willed us to victory in a lot of cases in that last season. I think Savion Williams is a really, really great receiver. And we've got a lot of guys in the transfer portal that came in, like Eric McAllister from Boise State. He's a good deep threat guy. We got your tight end, Matt. What's his name?
Yeah.
Dabney. Yeah, that should be a good addition.
That hurt.
Yeah. There's a lot of athletes. It's just a matter of having that chip on your shoulder that TCU plays best with, that we didn't have last year, and having a guy who doesn't throw interceptions in the red zone and having an offensive line that's competent, right? That's really what we're needing. The 4 losses that they picked for us, and I think these are fair, is Kansas, Utah, Oklahoma State, and Arizona. Right? I mean, if you're going to be okay with losing 4 games, those are the 4 games I think you're going to be okay with losing on our schedule. But yeah, I can't believe, by the way, we were talking about this a second ago. I can't believe that Texas Tech and TCU isn't a protected rivalry in the Big 12 moving forward. That's ridiculous to me.
They do play this year.
Yeah, we play this year, but then not next year, is my understanding, right?
Either I think we missed Baylor or TCU. I'm not sure which.
Stupid.
I don't remember.
Britt, give us pods. Give us pods, man.
Well, they did, and half the teams have protected rivalries and half don't.
Yeah, TCU doesn't play Tech next year.
Lame. I if I had to pick one, it would be Baylor for a protected rivalry. I mean, obviously, but come on, give us Tech and Baylor. That shouldn't be too much to ask. Shouldn't be. I mean, the Tech games are always so fun. They're always so stupid. There's always critters loose on the field, or like a tipped pass for a game-winning touchdown ridiculousness, or 3 overtimes. Whatever else. So, any other thoughts, y'all?
I would just say I like the way they're talking about schedule composition. Like they have like the 5-4-3. That's probably my preferred way to split it up. But yeah, other than that, I think that you need to show like progress coming off of a 5-win season for SUNY. 8 maybe a little high, but I mean that's fair. But I think like you can't win just 6 and not have a scorching hot seat. Yeah. And I would say this. I was going to say this. I think if offense plays like they play next year, they definitely will be looking for an offensive coordinator.
And I wouldn't mind.
I thought they were going to. That's another one I thought like for sure they were going to make it switch. But
and it was so controversial whenever the hire occurred, right? It was very shocking to a lot of people.
Cowardly, however you want to say it.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm sure y'all saw the announcement on Twitter, right? Where he's like in the background, like
having human shields as children. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we saw that. Trust me, we saw it. We saw it here in Waco. Yes.
Anyway, I don't want to get myself in trouble, but I was a little surprised, but whatever. So okay, before we move on to Tech, I do have to run a quick ad. So let me do this, and then we'll continue.
Of what I do as a sports commentator, I have definitely been blessed. I enjoy my career. But I got to say, if I could turn back time, I would learn the business side of sports management, how to manage people, how to manage projects, how to manage situations. And then there's also those times in which you feel stuck in a job, stuck in a career, just feeling that there's a dead end and wondering and waiting, when is that break going to happen? Well, unfortunately, I got to tell you, that break is not coming unless you make it happen. Sports is your passion. You love it, you live it, you breathe it. Why not make your passion your career? Introducing Southern New Hampshire University, our sponsor. At SNHU, you will learn the business side of sports management principles, and how to gather and analyze data. This degree will help you prepare for a career as an athletic director, sports information director, marketing manager, and other exciting roles in the sports industry. You'll be able to tap into SNHU's network of graduates working in sports-related organizations. You'll also have the opportunity to take advantage of an internship or an experiential learning course within the field. Your courses are taught by faculty with real-world experience, so you'll have opportunities to connect with people in the industry. And when you graduate, SNHU will be right there to help you with your job search. SNHU is accredited, nonprofit, and has radically affordable tuition. SNHU was voted one of the country's most innovative universities by U.S. News and World Report. Just go to snhu.edu/VOCFB. The link's also in my description section down below to see if you qualify for SNHU's sports management program. You might be eligible for financial aid or have existing college credits that could fast-track your degree at SNHU. Click the link to get started. Your exciting sports management degree at SNHU awaits you. Do it now.
All righty, so let's close this puppy out. Let's talk some Red Raiders here. DCTF's prediction, 8-4, identical to the Frogs, ceiling of 10-2, and a floor of 5-7. Here is your quick hitter. Much of the 2024 season hinges on the health or lack thereof of quarterback Baron Morton's throwing shoulder. With Morton, the Red Raiders should be a dark horse candidate to usurp favorites such as Utah and Kansas State, two teams they don't play in the regular season. Taj Brooks is a demon at running back, and the wide receiver corps might be the best in the conference. Add in a seemingly improved offensive line that added 3 transfer portal additions and deeper defensive roster, and Joey McGuire's squad can punch up if they avoid the early season pitfalls and road woes that plagued his first 2 seasons in charge. All right. Break it down for me, Rob. What do you think?
Yeah, that's spot on. You can't lose early, you can't lose in the non-con, and you can't lose on the road as much as you have. But you've got 2 straight seasons of winning records in the Big 12. You haven't done that since 08-09. Some guy named Mike Leach was in charge.
Yeah, those might have been good years. I don't know.
So you have some stability here at least. If you are trying to take a step forward, what's the step forward this year? It's winning another game in conference play. It's going 6-3. It's going 7-2 in conference play. And if you add that into a winning non-conference slate, then all of a sudden you are 9-3, 10-2, and I think your ceiling is right there. Who are the losses that they say? Because you do avoid 3 of the top 5 teams in the conference, other than yourself, with Kansas, Kansas State, and Utah all off the schedule this season. So I do think your schedule leads itself to a little bit of 8-4.
Yeah. So the 4 losses they have are Arizona, TCU, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State.
Yeah, road games. So every road conference game is a loss, according to Dave Campbell's, and that's not crazy to me. I personally think you can win at Iowa State. You did 2 years ago. I think you can beat Allen Bowman. That should be an interesting game.
Yeah.
I think you can beat Arizona. I'm not sold that their new coach is as good as Jed Fish was. I think he was cooking. I'm talking like you can win every game on the schedule. I think you can. I don't think you will, but I think you can. I think Texas Tech lines himself up to have a pretty good season. And again, is that this year's schedule? Yeah, it's just still 2.
Yeah.
I forgot you played Arizona State so early. Yeah, I think you can start 5-0, honestly. And if you go 5-0 and you have some confidence on the road at Arizona, you could probably go 7-0. And if you have some confidence going into Fort Worth, I don't know, stranger things can happen. But it does all hinge on this shoulder of Baron Morton that got shut down in the middle of the season after a game against West Virginia that got shut down in spring football as far as the pitch clock goes. And then a month later, it was sent to another specialist to discuss preventative measures. We're talking about surgery. So, if you're healthy, yeah. If not, I think there's some strong questions about Zach Kittley, and I think there's some questions about maybe how you move forward offensively and how you want to play complementary football a little bit more with this defense.
Yeah, it's interesting that they mentioned early season pitfalls because I look at those first 5 games, and the only one I'm even remotely worried about if I'm a Tech fan is Washington State. And that's really only because it's in Pullman.
Yeah, you were a 17-point favorite against Wyoming.
Well, that's true.
And I think it's similar to go to Washington State, go to Pullman. You were maybe 11-point favorite. You got up by 17. Maybe you were 11-point favorite. Whatever it was, you were double-digit favorites. And so and then you lost to NC State in the non-con in year 1. So you don't have a 3-0 slate yet in the non-con. So that's what the magazine is saying.
Yeah, good point. But that should be a 5-0 start. I mean, if things go the way they're supposed to go, that should be a 5-0 start. And then you got that tough game, your first truly tough game at Arizona. Yeah, it really comes down to health. I agree, because Tech's got some really good skill players. I mean, DCTF gave them A's for running back, receiver, and linebacker. That's the only one of our 4 teams that got A's at any position. They're really high on it. And also Tech is the only one of our 4 Texas teams to get an A in recruiting right now. So, there's a lot of talent in Lubbock. And we know McGuire's recruiting well. It's just putting the pieces together on the field.
There is more talent than there has been. I'm not ready to say there's a lot of talent here because then you really have some real expectations. But I do think there's a lot more talent than there had been, especially through the end of the Cliff era and the Matt Wells era.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Matt, Bobby, what are you thinking?
kind of looking at their schedule, I think 5-0 is definitely going to set them up well. I think there are some pitfalls. Washington State, Arizona State, while not a team that you think of as a good team or somebody who's going to compete for the conference or something like that. I mean, to Rob's point, you were 18-point favorites, you said, Rob, going into Wyoming. So I mean, if you come out, somebody gets injured, maybe that 5-0 start now looks 3-2, and you're looking at some trouble, and then you just got to fight your way through conference. So 5-0 is what I would expect if I was a Tech fan. I'm sorry, it's what I would want. I would expect a 4-1 and just be okay with 4-1 as long as the loss isn't to like Abilene Christian or
North Texas.
Like North Texas, something like that, right? But
Chandler Morris, baby, he's cooking.
To the
Cooking
thing
in
Matt
Denton.
said earlier, right? To the thing Matt said earlier, wins look different. Not every win is ever made equally, right? If you are 5-0 and you squeaked by North Texas, and you squeaked by Washington State, and you squeaked by Arizona State, do you feel as good? Or if you go 4-1 with a loss to Washington State, and you squeak by North Texas, and you squeak by Arizona State, you don't feel great about that if you're a Texas Tech fan.
No. That reminds me of like 2014 when I was in a coffee shop watching Central Arkansas and Texas Tech, and it's 42-35 with a couple of minutes left. And you're like, this is going to be a long season. And you went 4-8.
Exactly.
And you went 4-8. And I was like, yeah, that Central Arkansas game spoke volumes.
Yeah. Been there. not with Central Arkansas, but yeah, I've been there oh God. It's gonna be one of those years.
Yeah, we were down like 30 to Rice at halftime last year, so I get it.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you about losing to Texas State on week 1. That's always a fun time for everyone.
Yeah.
Especially when you have like
And
those
then-
high expectations. You're like,
Yeah.
we're decent this year. Like, we could win 8 or 9 games, and then game 1, you're just like, we could.
Oh
lose
yeah,
8 or
game
9
1,
games.
lose to Texas State, and your quarterback gets hurt. That's a great time for everyone when everyone's jazzed up about football's
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
It's miserable.
Yeah. Oh, so here's a good one. This was 20 years ago now, and I'll give it to you, Rob, since I mentioned a couple of embarrassing games for Texas Tech. 2004, Clint's very excited about the future of TCU football. We just won a Liberty Bowl in 2003 and almost made the BCS, and we're going to Lubbock and we're going to play Texas Tech, and we lose 70-35, and it's like, son of a gun, this is going to be a great year. End up losing to J.P. Losman in Tulane to keep us out of a bowl game. Fun stuff. Very, very fun stuff. Yep, we've all been there. So any other thoughts on Tech, gentlemen?
I would echo what Rob was talking about. Like, I'm concerned about Baron Morton, and I like a kid from Eastland, Texas, but he can't seem to like stay healthy. And so like I would be who's going to be playing quarterback down the stretch for Texas Tech at the end of the year. And then, but also I think, and it's kind of the same thing like I said about Baylor winning in West Virginia, until Texas Tech can go unscathed in the non-con, I expect them to like have some stupid loss. Like I can see them like losing a game like to Arizona State when they shouldn't, and then turn around and beating Arizona. I mean, that's something that Texas Tech does.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, last year they should have beat Oregon.
Oh, 100%.
And then that completely changes the tenor of your season.
Yeah, Taj
You
Brooks
start
had
off like that.
stories.
But yeah,
We're going to put Rob in an early grave here.
6
Yeah.
carries. I didn't realize he was the focal point of our offense till week 6. So, direct quote.
but that's the only thing is like it's the biggest thing about Texas Tech going this season is like quarterback health, I would say.
Yeah, at least you got a guy you're confident in Baron Morton. At least that's a guy that you feel good about. I don't feel like that's been the case for a lot. I mean, everyone can talk about how much they were excited about Tyler Shuck, but like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, Tyler Shuck was never healthy.
Yeah.
Any year he played college football,
Oh.
he never played a full season. So it's like
Say
he had
he's
all the
got one more
potential.
shot. No cards. One more
Oh my
shot,
God.
baby.
He'll probably win the Heisman this year.
Yeah. That would be classic. Oh my God. If that happens, I'll retire.
It's on record. All right, boys. Well, I've kept y'all for over an hour. It's been a fun show. Tell the people where they can find you, where they can follow you, all of that good stuff, and we'll get ourselves on out of here.
You can follow us at Gambling Gauchos on Twitter, Instagram, at Rob Rose Show. You can follow us on Patreon, patreon.com/Gambling Gauchos.
You can find us at SH Podcast, at SH Podcast on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. Or you can find us wherever you listen to all of your podcasts. So, no, they shut down Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those places. Just search Scott and Holman Pod, PAWD Cast, because we do the Cougar Paw. You guys get it. So, Scott and Holman Podcast for all of your U of H
And you can find us
information.
at the Bear Den Pod on Twitter and at thebeardenpod.com.
Wonderful, gentlemen. Thank you so much. And yes, you should subscribe to this show, right? You want more of this, right? This is a good time. At Big 12 BOCFB, go over to YouTube, pop over there, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, do all of the things that you know you're supposed to do as a good media consumer these days. And please do follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55 and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy. There it is right there on the screen. Gonna have more videos for you this summer. Gentlemen, thank you so much again. Thank y'all all out there in the internet sphere for joining us. Have a fantastic week. I love you. I hope your team wins. And go Big 12. Go
Big
Frogs.
Frogs.